Okay, we're back. It's been about 15-20 minutes. I like to pull it a little bit when it's still a little bit soft. That way we can trim it with a knife. Some of these what look like wrinkles are actually just excess resin. So now we'll take a good sharp razor blade. Trim this. Get some of this excess resin sanded off here. We'll have a little bit of finishing to do, little blemishes to fill. Now this particular one I'm going to paint. I would paint it with a clear urethane. The important thing is you get some paint that has some UV protection if you're going to leave it outside much. Okay, for comparison, there's the old wire gear, 65.4 grams. Now let's put the new gear on there, carbon fiber gear. 68.4. Darn, I gained 4 grams. But this gear is a lot stiffer and will be a lot nicer and a lot more scale looking on the airplane. Okay, I've dipped into my carbon fiber scrap bag again. What we're making here is basically the hold down plate that'll hold the landing gear into the airplane. I'm going to use 2 layers of bi-directional carbon fiber and 6 layers of uni-directional carbon fiber. Basically just make a flat plate. I'm going to alternate the directions that these layers of carbon fiber go. .90 degrees to each other. And I'm going to go to some effort, because this straight plate needs to be pretty strong, I'm going to go to quite a bit of effort to keep from getting it too resin rich. And then I'll show you a technique here in a second. Now, I could vacuum bag this. I have a vacuum pump and all the stuff to do it. But I'm going to show a method that you can use that'll get the resin ratio close to optimum without having to have all that equipment. That layer was kind of puny, so I'm going to put one more layer on here. And then last, I'm going to put another layer of bi-directional. It's cut on a bias. A little more resin. Make sure it's easier to get the resin out than it is to, well, there's no way to add it back in if you don't put enough resin in. You just end up with a ruined laminate that's a little resin lean. So I'm going to put some extra in here. Okay, so now we got that layup put together. You'll notice that I laid it up on a piece of plastic, in this case a piece of vacuum bagging film. The reason I use vacuum bagging film, if you have it, it works great because it releases from the epoxy. It's got much better than just straight plastic. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is kind of a special product. This is called, I think it's a nylon fabric, but anyway, it's a this might be Dacron, but anyway, this is called peel ply. And what you can see here is that it actually allows resin and, get that under there, air and resin through, but when I get done it'll peel right off, so it kind of breathes. Then I'm going to take a couple layers of blue paper towels, put on here. And these are just on there to soak up excess resin. I'm going to take this and wrap it over the top. I should have got something to set on top of that. It's not too late. There's a nice plywood block. Now, what you set on top of it really doesn't matter much, as long as it's big enough to spread the load over the whole thing. Now, I'll put a couple of lead weights on here. This is a 25-pound bag of lead shot. So I've got about 30 pounds on it. That'll push down the laminate and compress it. It'll cause the excess resin to come up through the peel ply and be soaked up by the paper towels. So now we'll just wait for that to cure. Okay, we're at this point in the video. I decided to include a little bit of footage on how I inletted the fuselage for the landing gear torsion box. This yak fuselage is made of EPO foam, which is a pretty tough foam. It doesn't cut real easy. Milling machine makes short work of it though. But you could also use a Dremel tool or die grinder, or even cut it out in sections with knives. But anyway, this will give you a basic idea how I did mine. And right here I'm cutting the slots for the in the 1/8 inch plywood for the joining the 1/8 inch plywood pieces together. Okay, I made the mount to go in the model to accept our landing gear. Spent about 2 hours cutting out parts, and I cut them out of 1/8 inch birch plywood. And I'm going to try to make it so that I tried to make it so that they are all interlocking, so they'd be strong as possible. I didn't go into a lot of detail on this video about this because, frankly, you have to make each model's totally different how you can mount it. Now with foam models, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that a carbon fiber gear transfers a lot more load to the fuselage, the landing shock loads, than more than the wire gear does. So you have to make the mount in the airplane a lot stronger, and you have to make it spread the load out over a wider area on the foam in order to keep it from busting the foam on normal landings. So anyway, I'm just going to put this together now, and you can see kind of how it goes together. Like I say, this is peculiar to this model. I basically tore all the old mount out of the airplane for the wire landing gear, and I'm using the areas where this ties into there is some plywood inside the fuselage that's used for reinforcement, to reinforce the fuselage, and I basically am going to tie into that with this. And so we've got a bunch of pieces here that are that I got to put together, and I'm going to glue them all together with 5-minute epoxy. First thing I'm going to do is take my base plate here, and I'm going to kind of cover it with epoxy to get it to kind of seal it. I like to have it sealed against the elements, and I can coat it real good with epoxy, and that way it won't absorb moisture. I got 2 pieces left here that I actually made slots for to insert in the airplane after I have this piece glued in. And they'll basically slip down over the top of this and hold it together. I also finished my carbon fiber plate. I don't know if you can see that. That's the carbon fiber plate that I made a little earlier. That'll actually screw down. That actually goes right across the top of the landing gear. There'll be 4 screws that hold that down to this box. That'll hold the landing gear all against these O-rings here, so it's kind of rubber mounted. It'll allow the landing gear to flex, because this portion of our landing gear is the spring. It has to flex in there, and so that'll facilitate that. Okay, we're ready for our final assembly on our torsion box here. Oops. Dripped right down the side of the airplane there. Plenty of glue in here. Okay. Now we'll likewise put glue on our actual torsion box. Plenty of glue on there. There we go. Now, if I did it right, this will slip right in there. Ah, beautiful. Now we got a couple more pieces to put in here to tie it into the fuselage better. There's that piece. Oh yeah, good. Good. And this piece here goes on the front. There we go.